All right, welcome in everybody to another episode of Garbage Time Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm here with JJ. How you doing, JJ?
I am doing well, Ryan. Thank you for filling in here.
And in the famous words of the man we never see anymore, it's time for Garbage Time. All right, I think it's cool that you and I have our own intro because our episodes are so good.
I kind of forgot about that.
All right, so we got some good teams to cover this tonight. So
yeah, we're covering the NFC South. So yeah. Joe is finally getting a much deserved night off. So we're filling in here. We're gonna break the NFC South down. First, we're gonna hit the news. I don't even know if it's worth hitting. There's literally not any news right now.
Joe's gonna be real upset if we don't do news. So here we go for our news.
News updates.
All right, what news you like? I honestly don't even know if I have any news.
So there's a news about J.K. Dobbins. Report came out today that he may not be ready for training camp. So we kind of touched on him a little bit as a player on this podcast because of trade Ron made in Dynasty. And I know Ron and Joe seem pretty high on him this year. But, look at that. Joe's already in the comments.
Already? He just can't stay away.
He can't. Joe, I don't even know why you're not.
Man.
Anyways, yeah, J.K. Dobbins may not be ready for training camp. So there had been rumors before around the time of the draft that he could start the year on the PUP list because his knee injury was pretty significant. What are your thoughts on this if J.K. Dobbins has to miss 6 weeks on the PUP list? What does that look like for the rest of the Ravens running backs?
I just think it really sucks for Ron. What are the rules for PUP? Is that a set number of games? I don't even know.
It's 6 games if he starts the season on it. You can start like training camp on it and then be activated before the season, but if he starts the season on it, it's 6 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, so they got who else they got? Gus Edwards, Mike Davis. Do you see one of them getting a majority of the work, or do you see them kind of splitting it?
Well, if Gus Edwards is fully healthy, I think he would probably get the first crack at it. But
yeah,
depending on how he is in his recovery, kind of depends on that. So I think both would be a mix.
It's a messy situation. I don't think it kind of means for 6 weeks you probably won't have a fantasy relevant Ravens running back, at least.
Right. So I personally am staying away from Ravens running backs this year. Unless I hear something more definitive on Dobbins' health, and even still, unless your name is Adrian Peterson, running backs first year back from ACL tears typically take another year to warm up. So,
all right, Joe again.
He's just feeding us the news in the comments.
You're welcome, LOL. Okay, Joe, again, if it's you are, just imagine the apostrophe is the A. Okay? Just imagine it that way. And maybe you'll get it right. But that's true. So there were some rumors coming around that the Seahawks wanted him. Now it's coming out that they're not probably going to go for him. Do you think the Panthers are still in the running for trying to grab him?
I don't think it makes sense for either team to trade for him. Both teams are kind of in rebuild mode and probably want to tank for one of the top quarterbacks in the class. So trading for a quarterback that's, led a successful season before and he might have a winning record. Nah, it's got to be just about 500, I would guess. But a quarterback that's capable of winning doesn't really make sense for a team that's trying to tank and not tank, but they're not going to be competitive this year and they're going to want a high draft pick. So, I mean, if he gets cut, maybe they take a 1 year flyer on him, but I don't see it.
Yeah, especially if you're a team that's really eyeing one of those 2023 quarterbacks, there's really no incentive to take a quarterback that'll probably get you 500, and you'll be picking middle of the pack, and you'll miss out on all those guys. So
Right.
Honestly, it's not. He's probably not going to take you to the Super Bowl. I don't think that's too bold of a take. So, and lastly, Joe has one more for us. Deontay Johnson wants $20 million a year. I did hear about that, and I also heard that the Steelers were basically like no. But again, it's just more of the repercussions of some of those huge wide receiver contracts that got signed this offseason. Now everybody wants to get paid.
Yeah, I don't see Deontay Johnson getting that type of money. The Steelers have really heavily invested in the defense. They just made Minka Fitzpatrick the highest paid safety in the league. They paid TJ Watt. Obviously, they don't have a quarterback to pay now, but still, I don't see them spending that money on Deontay Johnson. So they'll make him play this year and see how he looks with the new quarterbacks and probably go from there and tag if necessary.
Yeah, because is this his final year?
I believe it is his fourth year, and he wasn't a first-round pick, so I think this may be the last year of his contract.
Yeah, interesting situation there. But like you said, they've kind of spread their money out other ways, so I don't think it'll really be possible for them to do it, even if they wanted to.
Right.
Does that cover all the news? I think that's pretty much
Last
it.
thing I was going to bring up was from RG3. I just wanted to get your thoughts on it. RG3 tweeted today, Mac Jones is most likely to win a ring first of the rookie quarterbacks who played serious time last year. Bill Belichick and the Patriots are defensive masterminds, outcoach other teams, and Mac attack will stretch the field more after last year. What are your thoughts on this?
Trying to think of all the rookies that played last year. So
Fields, Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Mac Jones are really the four he's talking about, because he said extended time, because Lance only played 2.5 games.
Those other teams, have any of those other teams even won the Super Bowl in the last decade?
I can confirm the Bears have not.
So sounds like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah, I can't dispute it.
Yeah, and you're getting a lot of comments out of Patriots camp that he's making a big jump this year. They say that about everybody, though. When it's a QB second year, that's what they always say. But it all sounds like good stuff. So I'm excited to see it this year. I think he'll have better weapons this year than what he had last year. So should be a fun season.
It should be. Probably not, but at least for my team. But
and Joe wants to know why you're not winning.
I'm just roughing it today. Got out of work, worked out, didn't even change, or didn't even shower or change or anything. I just came home and wrangled kids until podcast time. So
straight on the grind, man.
Yeah, some people got to show up, Joe.
Yeah, somebody's got to do the work.
All right. You ready for this division breakdown?
Yes, let's get into it.
All right. Do you have to Joe's not here to hit that button of the ridiculous Cam Akers twerking intro video.
I keep wanting to forget about it. Where did he find that?
I couldn't tell you.
Don't know.
I don't know. I don't know where he found it or why he made it, but he did it.
All right. So, like JJ mentioned, NFC South breakdown time. What team you want to start off with, JJ?
Let's work out, Joe. The grinder, he made a script, so we'll work roughly off that, and any other questions we come up with, we'll inject in. But we'll start with the Bucs, the reigning division champions. So, Joe, here's the line of question. First line of questioning: is Tom Brady's numbers going to drop with Antonio Brown leaving and allegedly Gronkowski retiring?
I'm still a fanboy, even though he broke up with us and wasn't very nice about it. But I'm gonna say I don't think so. With the Buccaneers, he throws the ball a lot. Over 600 attempts in 2020. That was second in the NFL. Over 700 attempts in 2021. That was first in the NFL. Each season, Gronk and Brown combined, they did account for about 20%. But he has Mike Evans, Chris Goodwin when he comes back, Russell Gage. I think he's going to be fine. I think he'll sling the ball around just as much. And when you have that many attempts, you're going to keep being pretty proficient.
Yeah, so one of the takes that I had to cold take myself on last year was saying that Brady was going to finally hit the wall and not put up numbers. So I will not be making that mistake again, as he threw for over 5,000 yards and 43 touchdowns. So I'm not going to say anything negative about Brady. I think he's going to be fine. One thing I want to touch on, speaking of Gronkowski, I know Joe and Ron talked about Gronk's retirement in the news, and they seem to think that he's going to come back like before the season starts.
I really don't think so, honestly.
I don't either. I think if he does come back in time for the playoffs, so I don't think he's going to play during the regular season. I think he's actually done. So if I had him in Dynasty, I would. I mean, if you had the luxury of stashing him, like maybe your league has a taxi squad or whatever, maybe put him there. But I personally don't think he's worth it. I think he's pretty checked out at this point. So
no, and I have him. I stupidly traded a third-round pick for him just to see.
Well, you get a lot of draft capital.
Yeah, I had some to spare. I'm gonna hold on to him just until probably our draft, just in case. But how many times can you really retire and come out of retirement? You can't. I feel like you only get to do that once.
Brett Favre.
See, that didn't work out great though. That. No, I think he's done. He got another ring, got to play another season with Brady, had a lot of fun down in Tampa. So I don't think he comes back.
Okay. So I'll go to the next question on that. So is Cameron Brate worth a look in fantasy football?
I think he's worth a look. I mean, I think it's worth looking at him. He didn't do great when Gronk was sidelined, but he was also splitting snaps with O.J. Howard, who has now left to go to the Bills. You toss in the absence of Brown and Godwin potentially, and there's definitely a possible to be fantasy relevant, even if it's just off of red zone targets. I think he was a top 10 tight end in like 2017 and 2018, I think, just off of red zone work. So it's definitely possible. I mean, it'd be worth a look.
I don't mind Brate. If you miss out on that big wave of tight end, well, not big wave, but the top tier tight ends, like the top 6 or so, tight ends obviously becomes a dead zone from thereafter. So maybe take a couple flyers on tight ends like an Austin Hooper or Cameron Brate, guys that could have significant roles in their offenses. Ryan had draft capital because he traded Lamar.
Listen, and I still don't regret it because the individual on this podcast I chose traded Lamar to lost me in the playoffs because Lamar put up like 1 point. So
forgot about that.
I do
what
not.
A story.
Right? Like it's the definition of irony right there.
It is.
So yeah, I think we're both on the same page with Brate. Definitely worth a look if you miss out on that. Like you mentioned, that top 5 group that everyone knows about. Then
yeah, typically when I draft, if I miss out on or don't draft those guys, I wait till late to take tight end, and those are the type of guys I'll take. I'll actually draft 2 tight ends.
I honestly feel like there's no point in drafting a tight end in like the middle of the draft. It's either you're doing it right up there, or you might as well just hang back and snag one of those guys.
Yep. All right, so what is your outlook on Russell Gage? The Bucs gave him a decent chunk of change. Obviously, Chris Goodwin tore his ACL late in the season, and I think the consensus is that there's a solid chance he starts on the pup list, opening the window for Russell Gage to step into a big role at the start of the season. What do you think of Russell Gage this year?
Yeah, so I really like Gage this year. Like you mentioned, if Godwin's out, he's pretty much automatically the wide receiver 2. And like I mentioned when we were talking about Brady, there's a lot of passing work to go around. 700 attempts last year. Even if that tapers off, you're still looking at probably 600.
Yeah.
So I think there's definite value there.
I would agree with you. And we saw last year, even with Godwin playing, Antonio Brown was there. Brady supported 3 fantasy relevant wide receivers. So even when Godwin comes back, I mean, there's a solid chance he's not 100%. So I think if Gage really clicks with Brady in camp, he could. I mean, there's no reason why he can't have a 1,000-yard season, especially with the departure of Gronk. There's a lot of targets there now for Tampa. So,
Yeah.
All right, we're on the same page there too. Last thing I wanted to touch on for the Bucs, Leonard Fournette. Joe asks, does he have top 5 upside this season? And is he being undervalued at an ADP of 12, RB12?
Yeah, so I think I'm going to say no on the top 5 potential. I haven't really decided on the 12. A big part of his success last year was really just the receiving work. 69 receptions off of 84 targets. But then the Bucs went and drafted probably the best pass catching running back in this draft. So I see him losing a big chunk of that receiving work. So I would be out on him for top 5 for sure.
And Ryan, of course, is talking about Rachaad White, who has been pretty outspoken about wanting a large role in the Bucs offense. So that definitely is a threat to Fournette, who had, I think, just about 70 receptions last year, which really boosted his PPR stock. So, I don't find myself taking a lot of Leonard Fournette in drafts. There also was a report that he came into camp heavy, so I don't know. He's had questions about his work ethic before, so
it's always a concern with him getting out of shape. So when you start hearing that,
agreed. All right, you got anything else for the Bucs?
Let's see. I just want to make sure. Joe mentioned value for Rachaad White. I think we just touched on that. I think there's some receiving work that could be had there, and depending on how out of shape Fournette is, he might step into a pretty large role. And then, is Mike Evans going to lead the league in red zone targets and touchdowns? It's possible without Gronk there, and if Godwin's missing time, but that's also to lead the league. I mean, you had Cooper Kupp that had 38 red zone targets last season, so there's a lot to be had there. Once again, Joe, of course. So,
and unless, oh boy,
I can't even. I'm just not gonna.
Joe, just do your set, man. Jesus. Leave this phone to us.
Maybe he should be going to the library instead of the gym.
Meathead.
So I'm gonna say no. I don't think so. And we talked about Brait possibly being a pretty decent red zone target. So I don't think he's gonna lead the lead in red zone targets. But that was the only other one that I saw that we didn't touch on.
Yeah, I don't mind Evans this year. A lot of the mocks I do, he's available at like the 2-3 turn, which I think is a decent value for him based on Godwin's health and the departure of Brown and Gronk. I think Brady obviously trusts him. He's still crazy. He's still only 28 years old. It seems like he's been in the league for absolute ever. And he has, what is it? He's never not had a 1,000-yard season. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
like Brandon Cooks, where
8 straight years of 1,000-yard seasons. 2020, 13 touchdowns. 2021, 14 touchdowns. Does he have over or under 14 touchdowns?
13. I'm going to say over. I'll go over.
Over? I think that makes sense. I think I have Brady projected to throw like 36 touchdowns this year. I definitely think Evans could catch 16 of them. So, yeah.
Yeah, especially if you have Godwin out for a significant amount of time, then it's just. And would you project Brady for touchdown wise?
I think 36 or 38. He
Yeah,
had
which
43
is
last year.
yep. So that's right on. I agree.
All right. Let's move on to a team that I am not very excited about fantasy-wise, the Carolina Panthers. Will Sam Darnold make it the full year as the starter, or will Matt Corral eventually replace him?
It's going to be painful to watch, but I think Darnold plays the full season. I think Corral's more of a project. He's going to have to sit behind for at least a year, maybe longer. So barring any injuries, I think it's Darnold for the whole year.
Yeah, I don't. Last year was so weird. Darnold started off really hot, and people were excited about him, and then he got banged up. And yeah, they were calling him Cam Darnold because he was running so much.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I think Corral will probably find a way to start a game or two, but I agree. I think Darnold probably is the guy for them this year, unless they trade for Garoppolo, because I don't know where else Garoppolo would go. They're
or
not
if
going to
Baker
trade with
gets cut
Seattle,
and they do that.
Yeah, but we kind of touched on it. They probably want to tank for one of those top quarterbacks. So
Yep.
we will see. Okay, yeah. So basically, it doesn't matter because if you draft a Panthers quarterback, you're probably in trouble. So
just don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
All right. Christian McCaffery, will he be a top 3 running back and avoid injury this year?
It's possible, but I'm not like I wouldn't take him. Like if I was picking number 3 and two other running backs went ahead of it, like I wouldn't take him at top 3. I don't think he can stay healthy at this point. I guess once you start racking up those injuries, it's just hard to stay healthy.
Yeah, he's had all kinds of troubles with soft tissue injuries and hamstrings in particular.
Yeah.
It does make me nervous, and I don't know. I always find myself taking him in the top 4 if he slips to there, but at the end I feel very insecure about it. So
yeah, and if you did that the last couple of seasons, like you probably didn't win the league because your top pick was out for most of it.
Yeah, so I mean, basically draft at your own risk. Like, you know what he can be, and you know how bad he's burned people the last 2 years. So I think this year, there's no way he's going to miss that many games 3 years in a row, but I do think he's going to miss at least a couple of games. So either way, running back in the NFL, there's very few running backs that play every game. So
yeah, I mean, 3 games in 2020, 7 games in 2021. And he had a pretty good yards per attempt in last year, so there was like some hope.
he was playing well when he was in, but it was just for such a short time.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard. I don't like it.
Would you take Najee Harris or Christian McCaffrey?
Najee Harris. Yep.
Okay. I'd go the other way.
Okay. All right. Injuries scare me, man.
Scare me too, but whatever.
I take dependability over ability. All right.
All right. Yeah. Workload. Okay. All right. Let's move on from that because that question will be never answered because everyone thinks he's going to get hurt. Is DJ Moore a wide receiver 2?
I think so. I mean, if you look at his stats, he's been in that 20-ish range the past 3 years consistently, regardless of whoever they have back there throwing the ball. He's consistent. So I say yes. I think it's a pretty safe bet.
4 straight years of 1,100 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Does he have more than 4 touchdowns this year?
With Sam Darnold back there? Oof. I'll say yeah. Sure. Let's do it. Fabian wants to know what Joe took a much earned night off.
Well, allegedly, but he's
Allegedly.
commenting like he's on the episode.
So now he's at the gym, probably taking up a machine for an hour while someone else is waiting, watching this show and commenting.
It's a shame.
Don't be that guy, Joe.
My take on DJ Moore, I think he probably is a wide receiver too. I just never take him in the range that he is. I think his upside is limited with the quarterback that they have.
Yep.
So, I think he's in between 30 and 40 right now overall in drafts. So he's going in like the third round. So I don't have any interest in Joe McCann. How much you bench? It's a good question.
Joe does the Planet Fitness, so it's like those. It's the Smith machine, so that doesn't really.
Yeah, it's not a real bench.
Dumbbells, that's like a whole nother ball game. So I don't think he can. 2 Ryan Warners. Well, that gets heavier and heavier every day, Joe.
It's the off season. All right. What about Robbie Anderson? Do you have any interest in taking a flyer on him later in the draft? I know he talked about potentially retiring earlier in the offseason.
Yeah, I'm going to say no. No, I think there's better options to look at late. He finished like 27th in targets last season, but ranked as wide receiver 55 or something like that. And then, like you said, throws in talking about retirement, kind of him and Han. He's kind of on his last leg out there, so I'm out on Robbie Anderson.
Okay, I also am out on Robbie Anderson. And then there's last question. 2 more questions. Terrace Marshall.
This was an interesting one.
Yeah, I like the young player. I think he has potential in the league. He's just in a terrible spot and terrible situation. So in redraft, I don't really have an interest in him. I think I have him in our Dynasty League. Do I have him in our Dynasty League? Or is it the other one? I think I do. But I like the I like the upside on Terrace Marshall, but yeah, I do have him in our Dynasty League. I just I don't think that Sam Darnold's going to support 3 fantasy wide receivers. So,
yeah, I think his value in Dynasty is because the upside's there. He had some injuries left over from college that he kind of struggled with last year. His Dynasty value basically banks on the hopes that the Panthers suck this year and get one of those top QBs in next year's draft. And he definitely has the potential to be good if he stays healthy and they can get someone back there throwing the ball.
Yep. All right. So no on Robbie Anderson and Terrace Marshall. So last question Joe has for some reason. Fade Ian Thomas? Yes.
Yes.
I'm
not going to explain it. Just yes.
Yeah. Tommy Tremble, bad passing offense. No interest in any Panthers tight end this year. So, that pretty much does it for the Panthers. Not a whole lot of fantasy relevance outside of McCaffrey and DJ Moore. So it's,
that's it. Yeah.
Proceed with caution on both players. On to the Saints. I think a little more interesting team. A few more questions. So what Joe has here, let me first address Joe's bottom line. J.P. Holtz or any other Saints tight ends worth a look. So you know who J.P. Holtz is, right?
Taysom Hill could
don't you're on podcast with me? You're gonna bring that name up?
Oh man.
Do you know who J.P. Holtz is?
I don't, honestly.
He was on the Bears and he doubled as a fullback and is just not a great pass catching tight end. I don't know why this question's on the list, Joe. I'm gonna go ahead and criticize you for it. And we're going to just cross that one off. So Joe's first question, is Jameis Winston someone who be had at the end of fantasy drafts and sneak into the top 10 quarterbacks?
I think is he someone that you can draft late that could potentially kind of win you the lead? I think definitely. He was a QB3 in fantasy as recently as 2019. He's got Jarvis Landry, Michael Thomas, Chris Olave. I'm definitely with it.
Yeah, Saints O-line always plays well. Talented receiving core now. Assuming Michael Thomas comes back and is somewhat close to what he was. I don't think he'll ever be to his record-breaking reception record level again, but still could be a very good wide receiver. And spent high draft capital on Olave, and Jarvis Landry sounds like is clicking well already there. So lots of weapons for Winston. The only thing that worries me is Dennis Allen taking over as head coach, defensive guy. I think he could want to run more. But I still have no problem taking a flyer on Jameis Winston later in drafts. So speaking of run game, Alvin Kamara. So the rumor is he's going to be suspended 6 games. If he does in fact get suspended 6 games, what's the outlook on the Saints running backs? They have Mark Ingram, Tony Jones. What do you think?
I don't like it. Mark Ingram, he had that last decent year back in 2019 with Baltimore, where you kind of killed it. But other than that, you kind of got to go back to 2017, 2016 to get any real production from him. I mean, that was with the Saints, but I just don't think so. I'm gonna say no.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what to make of this. I just can't find myself taking Mark Ingram in the draft. Saints let him go a while ago, and he's since been recycled by the Ravens and Texans. So, I mean, no offense to Ingram, but unless he's back on the PEDs, probably not going to be. I don't know. A lot of miles on Mark Ingram. So maybe Tony Jones, a flyer late if you're in a deep league and the Kamara news is out. I may be more inclined to do that, but I'm not super excited about either of the Saints running backs behind Kamara. I would not be surprised if they made a move here in training camp or preseason time.
Yeah, so, I mean, definitely possible.
Kareem Hunt, I don't know, somebody else. And Joe's next question: how is the wide receiver core of Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry, and Chris Olave? How is it? How is the wide receiver core?
We touched on that a little bit. A lot of talent right there. I think it's a great situation for Winston to find himself in. Really like all those guys. So, yeah, they're good.
Who do you think has the most yards out of those guys?
I'm really hoping for Michael Thomas since I traded for him. I'm going to say Michael Thomas.
Okay. I hope he plays. I saw a video of him rehabbing, doing like one-legged box jumps, and it did not look great. So hopefully he was just maybe hungover or something, or just having a slow day, or maybe it was the last set. But I think he is going to get out there. Just hopefully he doesn't need any more surprise surgeries or anything like that.
I'm really hoping not.
All right. Anything else on the Saints? I mean, we went through that one pretty quick.
I think that's it. It's just that whole Kamara situation really sucks.
It's one of the biggest fantasy questions right now. If he is suspended 6 games, where are you taking him?
Ooh. It would be low. I'd almost guarantee someone would take him before I'd be willing to. Like, maybe in the middle of the pack, lower rounds, like 5 or 6.
Okay.
What about you?
Makes sense. Yeah. 6 probably sounds right. Then you probably have to try and grab one of those backup running backs later on. So, which I think you could get a decent value on. So 6 rounds sounds right if he's suspended 6 games. But I mean, just based on name value, people may jump on him earlier,
I
but
think they will.
that's fine.
Yeah, I'll let him.
All right, let's go ahead and roll into the Falcons here. Will Marcus Mariota start for the full season, or will Desmond Ridder get starts this year?
Yeah, I'm pretty much just going to recycle my answer that I used for the Sam Darnold situation. I think this is basically the same thing. Ritter's kind of a project. I think Mariota gets to start this year. Next year will probably be a completely different story, but I think he's pretty much going to start the whole season this year.
I would agree. It's going to be interesting to see what he does. He's obviously reunited with Arthur Smith. I mean, he didn't put up crazy numbers or anything, but he went to the playoffs with him in Tennessee. And he was a gamer in Oakland when he had to fill in, so he played pretty well in those situations. So it'll be interesting to see if he has anything left in the tank or if he's just going to be fully labeled as a bust. And Ridder, I don't know. I think he'll take a little bit of time to acclimate to the NFL, so I think they'd be wise to sit him. But at the same time, the Falcons could be one of those teams searching for one of those top quarterbacks at the top of the draft next year. So
yep,
maybe they want to see what they got. So I'll go ahead and say I think Mariota's going to start 12 games.
12?
And
all right.
Desmond Ridder will serve 5. That's my guess.
Okay. Like, do you think it'd be 12 straight and then throw him in for the last 5? Do you think it'll be sporadic?
I think he'll play 12 straight and then either get hurt or they'll want to see what they have in Ridder.
That's fair.
So next, he brings up the running backs. Is Cordero Patterson's fantasy stock free fall and knock against him, or are fantasy owners undervaluing him?
So I mentioned this before. I think it might have been in my bold takes. He did not do well the latter part of last season. And I think that's what a lot of fantasy managers are looking at to kind of predict for this upcoming season. So yeah, I think he's going to fall pretty far. Just, I think the experiment's over. I don't think he's going to do that well this year, at least at running back position.
Yeah, he started out the year super hot, and then I think the scouting report kind of got out on him, and teams were able to neutralize him. And also, he kind of took a beating with a lot of touches, so I think he slowed down a little bit too. So, I will not have a single share of Cordero Patterson this year, fantasy-wise, but I mean, he definitely helped some fantasy owners get off to a hot start last year. So,
yes.
So with that being said, is there somebody else that's going to step up? What do you think of Tyler Algier?
So yeah, I really like Tyler Algier, especially for Dynasty. But even possibly redraft. Like, he's walking into a situation where he's pretty much should be the RB1. I mean, they had a wide receiver at running back all last season because they didn't have anybody else. So it's his job for the taking if he comes out and performs well. Oh, that's interesting. Sleeper removed Patterson's wide receiver marker. He is exclusively a running back now. It's kind of annoying. So they didn't keep the sleeper. I was gonna say that's the one nice thing about Patterson is having that flexibility to throw him in an RB spot or a wide receiver spot, depending.
Yep.
So that sucks. But yeah, I really like Tyler Algier's value. I might be overestimating what he's going to do, saying he's coming in basically as the RB1 on the team, but that's where I'm at.
I don't mind Algier. I've talked about this before. I worry a little bit about Damian Williams coming in, veteran running back stealing carries from a younger guy. We see that quite frequently. So Damian Williams played pretty well for the Bears last year when he had to fill in before Khalil Herbert took over. So I think he could dig into Algier's workload. You know what? I don't have any interest in these guys. I think it's kind of a mess.
What about for Dynasty for Algier? Any interest at all?
Sure. I think you can get them in the later second, third. I've seen him going in mocks. So I think you can get a real value with him in Dynasty. So he kind of fits the Arthur Smith big bruiser role that could handle a workload. You saw him do it at BYU. So I think he could be definitely a decent Dynasty value. So, yeah. And what are your thoughts on Drake London? Is Drake London going to get 85-plus looks this year? I'll just go ahead and answer that. Yeah, he's going to get at least 85 targets. But is he the top rookie wide receiver? What's his stock in redraft?
I'm right with you. I think he gets 85 looks. I do. As far as top rookie wide receiver and his stock in redraft, if you go back to Mariota's 2017, 2018 seasons, Corey Davis had a really solid sophomore season with him. Got like 100-something targets. Then Matthews in 2017 had a pretty good season with him. But even those guys being the top receivers on those teams, they didn't push out of the 20s.
Yeah.
Fantasy value. So I'm going to say definitely probably not top rookie wide receiver, and his stock as far as the redraft probably isn't going to be super high.
I agree. I think he's going in around the top 100 in redraft. I think he's a good player. I just hate his situation. So in Dynasty, I think he has, he's a first round pick for sure. But in redraft, I'm not taking him anywhere. I like Garrett Wilson better. I like Traylon Burks better. I think Olave is close, but I definitely like the other two better in redraft. And then Joe asks, Calvin Ridley, is he worth taking a flyer in Dynasty?
You tell me, JJ.
So you traded him to me. Yes. The man likes his his FanDuel, and there's nothing wrong with that, and he'll come back better than ever next year. So
we all want to win a little money, all right?
Yeah. What's wrong with that?
He wasn't even playing. Listen, my thoughts on the situation don't matter, but nonetheless, I digress.
Yeah, $1,200 on FanDuel. Not betting on your team. I don't have a problem with it. The man's a hero. Anyways, yes, he's worth a flyer in Dynasty, Joe. So trade a third-round pick for him and be happily surprised in 2023. And last, Joe touches on Kyle Pitts. What is his ceiling?
Not to basically just repeat what you said, but his situation right now kind of sucks. You have Mariota that's never thrown over 3,500 yards a season. Mariota, over when he was with the Titans, he did have Delaney Walker over there. But even with a solid season, he didn't crack the top 5. I think Kyle Pitts is probably gonna fall out of the top 5 this year.
Okay. Over or under 68 receptions?
68. Oof. I'm gonna say under.
Under 68 receptions.
Wait, I'm trying to take that back. I'm trying to think. I'll say over, actually. I changed my mind. He doesn't have a ton of competition for targets there outside of Drake London. So I'll say over.
Yeah, no Ridley, no Russell Gage. Brought in Drake London. Yeah, I think over. I think Mariota's going to rely on him. Last year he had 1,026 yards. Shit take on Pitts. According to Joe.
The guy's never thrown over 3,500 yards. What do you want from me?
So last year Pitts first tight end since Mike Ditka to have over 1,000 yards in the rookie season. So 1,026 yards over, under, the same.
I'm going to say under. That would have to be a third of Mariota's passing. That'd have to be over 30% of Mariota's highest passing yards ever.
All right, I'm going to take the over. I think
all right. I don't hate it.
I think the Falcons suck, and they're going to be in some games where they got to throw. And they got London and Pitts and really not much other than that. So I'm going to take the over. And then 1 touchdown. I'm going to say he gets 5 this year.
I don't think – no, they got to be able to get down there. I just don't think they can do it.
All right. Are you out? Are you just out on Kyle Pitts this year?
Yeah, and to be fair, like I've been a hater on Kyle Pitts since like week 3 of last season. So it's honestly just I don't know what my problem is, but I'm just out on him.
See, Joe loves Kyle Pitts as he's lighting us up in the comments here. Telling Ryan he's got shit takes on Pitts. But that's just because he has him in Dynasty, and he also saw that lone touchdown that was scored last year happen versus Jets in London. So he's all about him. He's all about Kyle Pitts.
And I don't hate Pitts. It's just like his quarterback situation is much less than ideal.
Yeah, there's a Pitts was like in Tampa with Brady or took over Kelsey's job with the Chiefs.
Imagine?
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see where the Falcons go after this year because I don't think they have the answer at QB on their team.
No, this is just like a Band-Aid. Ryan just hates that he's not a pet. That might be part of the problem. You might be right, but
I think like the fans of the 31 other teams are probably mad he's not on their team too. Dude's just a 1 in a million.
The Falcons don't deserve him. We would use him better.
All right, so look, we're pretty much wrapped up with the prompted questions. So let me ask, who wins the division? What's your ranking of this division?
I'm gonna say the Bucs. I think they win it. Second place, I'll go Saints. I really like Jameis Winston and that wide receiver core he has there. It just the Kamara thing's really a bummer. But also if they get him after 6 games and they're still in contention, then they can really kind of get moving. Then down to the Panthers and the Falcons. Wish I had a coin. I'll go Panthers just because, and I know Mariota's made the playoffs. I just don't have faith in him, and I guess I'll say Panthers. If CMC manages to stay healthy all season, then they'll be better.
Yeah, on paper they should. Well, I guess the weapons somewhat close. I'm gonna take the Falcons 3. I agree. Bucs, Saints, little Falcons, Panthers. I think Arthur Smith's a better coach than Matt Rule, so that's my tiebreaker.
That's fair.
All right. Anything else you want to talk about on the NFC South?
Trying to think. I think we covered it. It's just kind of BS. Brady will get. I think Brady just has like another lock this season to get into the playoffs. So
I'm gonna be honest. Just like after going through the list of players in the NFC South, I do not have a lot of NFC South players on my mock drafts. Like, there's nobody that I'm dying to get out of the NFC South.
Not really. I think the NFC South is nice for like values that could possibly be steals. Like Russell Gage, he might be on more people's radars than I'm thinking. I think a lot of people might overlook him. DJ Moore, he can kind of be sneaky because I think a lot of people don't take him just because it's the Panthers, but he's consistent. And Jameis Winston, I think some people are low on him.
Yeah, I don't mind Jameis. 2 QB league. The second quarterback could be lethal.
Yeah, especially if that one with the rushing ability.
Yeah. We'll see. I don't know. We're overdue for a mock draft, so maybe I'll take one in a mock draft. We haven't done one in forever. Joe, get on it. Schedule it.
What do you even do?
Obviously not work out because you're in here talking to our dumbasses. All right.
He's probably on the level.
Last question I have for you, and it's completely relevant to fantasy football. Who does Alexander Volkanovski fight next?
Ooh. So, I just must say, that fight was amazing. I was actually rooting for Volk. I wanted him to finally close out the trilogy definitively. Honestly, I didn't even want to see number 3. I think I was in the minority with that. But I'm happy he kind of definitively established. I think he should get the nuts title shot. I think just make it immediately. Like
they were 55?
Yeah, they were planning on making Islam fight someone else anyway. And then they were kind of him and Han. So put him up against Oliveira for the title.
I think Oliveira messes him up personally.
It's tough because Volk almost did get submitted by Ortega, like as close as you can be to being submitted and not get submitted.
Oliveira's bigger with longer limbs.
Yes. Yeah, and better at that sort of thing. But I'd still love to see it. Anik mentions every time Volk used to be 210 pounds, so
rugby player.
he can get there. And then who do you have with the Pereira Adesanya matchup outside of kickboxing over into the sport of MMA?
I hope it's Pereira. I'm an Izzy hater. He puts on boring fights, and he fights smart and he fights to win, but don't go out saying I just want to show off and talk all this shit and then point fight and not even damage your opponent really.
Well, and then he says that it's not kickboxing, it's MMA, so it'll be different. But basically all he does is kickbox. He doesn't.
Yes.
So it's pretty much the same other than the gloves. I hope they turn around and make that fight quickly. Be a good one to see. Izzy at least is active. But as you said, you're allowed to be when you point fight and don't really get into those brawls. And then the ultimate letdown of the night, the Munoz Sugar Sean fight. Allegedly, he does have a scratched cornea. Well, DC took a knuckle deep finger in the eye and kept going. Part of me wonders if Munoz knew that he was up and was hoping to get the W.
I mean, there's fighters on the roster that would have kept going, but I thought Munoz would have, so that was surprising to me. But
make the rematch. I don't know what the medical suspension is for scratch corneas. But even when the fight was happening, it wasn't really good.
He wasn't punching. I thought he'd get inside on O'Malley and brawl with him, but he just exclusively leg kicked. So
not a single punch for the whole first round.
Shitty night of fights, really. I mean, the prelims are okay, but the main card was a letdown.
Yeah, no, the prelims were solid. I was happy with those. And as far I think they counted all those kicks as significant strikes, but a lot of those were checked too. So you don't know what kind of shape his leg was getting into at that point in the fight either. So,
yep.
Knows. I am happy. I had some bets on O'Malley by TKO, and it was looking pretty evident that wasn't going to be happening. So Munoz bailed me out a little bit there.
Wow. Well, that's what it is. On to the next pay-per-view.
Yeah.
You watching Tough?
No, I haven't watched a single episode of Tough.
Really?
Yeah, is it a good season? I'll have to get on there.
It's not bad. They got Usman's brother on there.
Oh,
so
really?
There's a couple good fights. Yeah.
No kidding. All right.
Mo Usman. He's on this season.
Is it welterweights?
It's heavyweights and women's flyweights.
Oh, okay.
So,
All right. Yeah, like I watched the most recent one before that. I watched the Volt Ortega season. That was decent. Yeah, I'll have to go catch up on this one.
got to binge.
I will. I got all the time in the world.
All right. Well, we just had to make sure we talked like at least 5 minutes of MMA.
Yes. Always good to talk MMA.
There's Joe's comment. Garbage Time presents the MMA returns.
You know, my partner in crime there is pretty unreliable as of late, so we will have to figure that out. No one wants to like just sit here and talk by myself. That's not fun. So we'll have to figure something out.
We will. All right. I think that's it for today. We did a bang-up job filling in for Joe, but it is what it is, and we appreciate you tuning in. I think I have to say that we are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Simplecast, Iheartradio, Pandora. Under my stupid face, you can see our Twitter handle, garbage_timeff. If you want to yell at us for talking about MMA instead of football, go to garbagetimeff.com and leave us if we just put the banner on the last 30 seconds. Suck it, Joe. We remembered.
Yeah, how you like that? And if you're looking to see Ron, I think there should be some new seasons of Ghost Hunters coming up. You might be able to find him on there. We're still searching, but he might make an appearance.
He's allegedly still filming the next Paranormal Activity movie, and he should be back with us once the preseason starts. So we'll keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, break out our Ouija board.
Yes, you should hit the Ron Ghost.
Oh, I should have. See, I'm not as fast as Joe.
All right.
The moment passed.
All right, let's get out of here.
Yes, let me find.